Hello and welcome back to the Ultimate Guide to Spawners. In this video we'll have a look at how to build spawners, what programs we need, and some of the extra little things in the files we hadn't discussed before. If you haven't seen the first two videos, then click on the on-screen annotation to go to a playlist where you can view them all. Anyway, we're going to start off this video by discussing the programs we need, so go to the description of the video and download MCEdit and NBT Explorer. So MCEdit is the main thing we'll be using, but NBT Explorer is useful for some tools and situations because it has some extra options that allow us to edit some of the details in the map files more specifically. However, to be honest, I think we probably won't be using it much in the coming videos, but I just thought I'd mention it so you can hear about an alternative method and in case you see about it in the future. So let's draw our attention to MCEdit, which by this point you should have. Now I'm going to assume you have a basic understanding of it, as in you can move around and you've managed to install it. However, if not, there are plenty of videos showing all of that, and if worse comes to worse, you can simply ask me in the comments. So, what we really want to focus on is the Filters tab. Now, filters allow us to do all sorts of lovely things, but first we need to install them. You need to start off by downloading some custom ones, and there are two main people for this, TextElf and Setpling, so you can check out the links I recommend in the description below. Installing the filters is simple. Open your MCEdit folder, continue through app data, through mcedit.0.1.6 win-amd64 and find the filters folder. From there, just drag and drop the filter Python files into the folder. It isn't rocket science, but I think it may be done a little differently on 32-bit machines, and if you're on Mac, I have absolutely no idea how you do it. To be honest, I don't even know if you can get MCEdit on Mac, so you're going to have to find out that part for yourself. Anyway, moving on. The basic idea of a filter is we can modify the settings, which in turn modifies the MBT data that we discussed in the last video. What we can do then is turn the red boxes in MCEdit that represent entities into spawners that spawn the respective entities. Doing this is as simple as selecting an entity and using Setpling's create spawners filter or TextElf's unified spawner filter and converting it into a spawner. What we can then do is open up the spawn and access all the MBT data using what is probably the most important filter, TextElf's NBT editor filter. However, sometimes when you apply this filter to a newly generated spawner, you notice a distinct lack of stuff in it. This is often simply because you need to go back into Minecraft with the spawner present so the correct files are made. Anyway, I want to spend the rest of the video discussing some of the extra stuff in the spawn that we haven't mentioned in the previous video. So, you may have noticed the spawn potentials and spawn data files. Spawn data may sound fairly straightforward. Surely it's just the information the spawner uses to tell it what it should be spawning when and where. And that's pretty much exactly what it is. However, it has a bit of a tiny, nasty, confusing trick. The spawn data acts more of a temporary information space. Basically, we can relate it to the delay tag. The delay tag is the time the spawner has until the next time it spawns, and the initial value is determined by a random value pool between the min and max delays. You should know this because we discussed it in the previous video. Anyway, that's a basic recap. So, you may be wondering how this sort of relates to the spawn data. Well, what we have to do is we have to think about what the delay tag really is, which is that it's a tag which is constantly being rewritten. It's more of a tool that the spawner uses to help it achieve a spawn, rather than something it tells the spawner what to do. Now, the general idea is the spawn data folder follows exactly the same principle. It's a place that temporary data is held in preparation for the next spawn. So you may be wondering where it's going to get the new data if it keeps getting deleted. Well, that's where the spawn potentials come in. The game picks information from the spawn potentials and writes it to the spawn data. So you may be wondering what the point of this all is. Well, pretty much, what it allows us to do is have a single spawner that spawns entities with different data. And basically the idea of it is just to create a sort of random effect to the system and not have to have hundreds of spawners. To put this into context, you may have seen some mobs from spawners with armor. And this is a perfect example of when a spawn has randomly taken some data from spawn potentials that includes the entity's equipment tags. Another example you may have seen is when Setpling created an MCEdit filter that would randomly choose entities to spawn based on certain relative weighting. The basic idea behind that is he had multiple files in his spawner, and they were all in the spawn potentials file. And what he could do is he could say, okay, there's a 30% chance that this will be pulled from spawn potentials, and there's a 70% chance that this other file will be pulled from spawn potentials. And through that, he can basically take and mix up the files in order to create the random effect. And it all comes from spawn potentials and is written to spawn data. So I think you get the idea. But again, recapping, spawn data is where the data for the next spawn is stored. Spawn potential is where the various data can be stored regarding the spawns after that. And you can weight them so that they're more or less likely to occur. In layman's terms, the spawn data is the worker who actually does the job, and the spawn potentials are the boss that gives the instructions. So I hope you understand that, and that's where we're going to wrap this video up. In the next video, we're going to be having a look at minecart spawners and all the lovely inceptions that come along with that. So I hope you guys tune in, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have a like rating, would be much appreciated. So that's all for today, and I'll see you guys next time. So, just as a prelude to this video, here's why I've not been able to upload recently. Basically, for one, I've been sick. Secondly, I've been working on some big custom map projects, so follow me on Twitter for updates about that. Thirdly, I'm approaching my A-levels level exams, and I'm taking arguably the 5 hardest A-levels, and that equates to about 10 exams within the next couple of months. Fourthly, Game of Thrones, and the last of my pathetic excuses can be summed up in a single word, and that's laziness.